Ancient scrolls that were buried in volcanic ash during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius are now being deciphered 2,000 years later, thanks in part to artificial intelligence.
AI just cracked open a scroll sealed for nearly 2,000 years, buried under ash when Mount Vesuvius annihilated Herculaneum. What it read wasn't just ink. It was an untouched voice from antiquity. The words challenged everything historians believed.
You find that you're reading text that belongs on a different part of the papyrus, and you can hardly even see that the layers have stuck to each other.
Revealing philosophical arguments, unknown figures, and possibly writings from Philodemus himself. But it doesn't end there, because this scroll wasn't the only secret. The Herculaneum Scrolls. On March 15, 2023, Nat Friedman, Daniel Gross, and Brent Seals launched the Vesuvius Challenge, a global effort aimed at achieving something never done before: reading a complete text sealed inside a carbonized Herculaneum scroll without physically opening it. The project united researchers, technologists, and historians around a single goal: recovering words that had been hidden for nearly 2,000 years.
If you try to open them, they fall apart into pieces. Of course, physically, the scroll is staying.
The story of these scrolls began in 1752, when well diggers uncovered strange, brittle objects inside a Roman seaside villa, later identified as the home of Lucius Calpurnius Piso Saturninus, the father-in-law of Julius Caesar. These objects turned out to be papyrus scrolls from the Villa of the Papyri, the only complete library known to survive from the ancient world. When Mount Vesuvius destroyed Herculaneum, a surge of superheated gas and ash swept through the city, reaching temperatures close to 500 degrees Celsius. The scrolls were not burned away, but carbonized, each roll transformed into a fragile block of charcoal.
The people are gone, the cultures are gone, and the places are gone, and yet, like a time capsule, you have this item that tells a story.
The ink used at the time was also carbon-based, made from soot or lampblack, which created a unique problem. Under X-ray scanning, the ink and the papyrus appeared identical, making the writing effectively invisible. Even when modern CT scans revealed the tightly folded inner structure and allowed the scrolls to be digitally unwrapped, the surfaces still looked blank, leaving their contents unreadable for centuries. This challenge rested on more than 2 decades of work by computer scientist Brent Seals and his research team at the University of Kentucky. Seals pioneered non-invasive methods for accessing text hidden inside fragile, layered objects. In 2015, his team began testing a technique known as virtual unwrapping, which transforms CT scans into 3-dimensional models that can be digitally unrolled without damaging the original object. That technology proved its potential with the En-Gedi Scroll, which was revealed to be the oldest Hebrew Bible scroll discovered since the Dead Sea Scrolls. However, the Herculaneum scrolls presented a far greater difficulty. Unlike earlier finds, both the ink and the papyrus were carbon-based, making them nearly impossible to tell apart.
That we actually can recover the ink from those scans is just a really, really subtle pattern that doesn't appear to our naked eye.
With support from a $500,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities in 2019, Seals's team developed early machine learning methods capable of detecting faint traces of ink in 3-dimensional scans. Additional funding helped establish EDUCE Lab, a specialized imaging laboratory dedicated to solving some of the most difficult problems in cultural heritage preservation, including the Herculaneum scrolls. Building on this foundation, the Vesuvius Challenge released newly scanned scroll data from the Institut de France, produced using the Diamond Light Source Particle Accelerator near Oxford. These extremely high-resolution scans were made public, alongside more than $1 million in prize money contributed by a wide range of donors. Almost immediately, a global community formed, bringing together students, engineers, historians, and researchers willing to tackle a problem that had resisted solution for centuries. Less than a year later, in December 2023, the effort succeeded. After roughly 275 years, the contents of a fully sealed Herculaneum scroll were finally made readable.
They found a library with at least 1,800 ancient scrolls with texts in Greek and Latin.
The $700,000 grand prize was awarded to Youssef Nader, Luc Ferrator, and Julian Schilliger. The team used multiple artificial intelligence models to verify their results.
3 students, including a 21-year-old American, found the best solution, and this is the result.
Ensuring they were detecting real ink patterns rather than random variations in the papyrus. By cross-checking different approaches and testing the system repeatedly, they achieved over 85% accuracy in distinguishing actual ancient ink from background noise in the scans. This far exceeded expectations, as most organizers believed there was less than a 30% chance that anyone would meet the challenge's strict standards. Their work revealed 11 additional columns of text, bringing the total to more than 2,000 readable characters. Beyond ink detection, their submission also introduced the most advanced automatic segmentation system to date. Julian Schilliger's tool, known as Thaumato-Anaccalyptor, assembled large papyrus sections drawn from multiple scrolls, confirming known text in familiar areas while uncovering entirely new writing elsewhere, including on the outermost layers. So far, roughly 5% of the first scroll has been digitally unwrapped and read. Papyrologists have completed a preliminary transcription of every revealed column, confirming that the text is not a copy of any known work. It contains material never seen before from antiquity, and a full scholarly study is now underway. According to the decoded passages, the scroll explores pleasure as the highest good in Epicurean philosophy. The author examines how the availability of goods such as food shapes the pleasure they provide, questioning whether scarcity truly makes something more desirable than abundance. He also considers whether people are more willing to give up things that are plentiful than those that are rare. The phrasing suggests the argument continues beyond the end of the recovered text. Early passages mention a figure named Xenophantus, possibly the same musician referenced elsewhere by the Epicurean philosopher Philodemus, who is believed to have served as the resident thinker at the villa. Near the end, the author sharply criticizes opposing views, accusing them of offering no meaningful understanding of pleasure. Most scholars reviewing the material believe the author is Philodemus himself, a follower of Epicurus with connections to figures such as Virgil. While some questions remain, ongoing improvements in artificial intelligence-based ink detection are expected to clarify many remaining uncertainties. To understand why recovering these scrolls matters, we need to go back to the day they were buried, August 24th, 79 AD. The Wrath of Mount Vesuvius. On August 24th, 79 AD, the day began like any other in the busy seaside town of Herculaneum.
In 79 AD, this ancient Roman city was also buried in volcanic ash by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius.
People went about their routines, unaware that their home lay dangerously close to an active volcano. To them, Mount Vesuvius was simply a mountain, not a ticking time bomb. 17 years earlier, a powerful earthquake had shaken the region, but few saw it as a warning. Earthquakes were believed to be routine events, punishments, or signs from Poseidon, the sea god, rather than signals of an impending catastrophe. As magma pushed upward, cracks opened in the ground and hot steam escaped. These subtle signs went unrecognized, while pressure deep below the surface continued to build. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Mount Vesuvius erupted with sudden, violent force. A massive column of ash and gas blasted into the sky, rising so high that people in nearby Pompeii could not see past it. Within minutes, millions of tons of volcanic material surged upward, reaching nearly 10 miles above the ground. Winds carried part of this deadly cloud toward Pompeii, while residents of Herculaneum watched in mounting fear as the eruption intensified.
Burying both Pompeii and Herculaneum beneath mounds of ash.
Soon, pumice, light, porous volcanic stone began falling like rain. Ash and debris piled up across streets and rooftops as panic spread. Some people fled while others remained indoors, hoping the eruption would pass. By 5 o'clock that evening, the weight of the pumice became unbearable, and roofs began collapsing across the region. Just after midnight, the eruption entered its most lethal phase. The towering ash cloud collapsed inward, releasing what geologists call a pyroclastic flow, a ground-hugging avalanche of superheated gas, ash, and pulverized rock that raced down the mountainside at over 100 kilometers per hour. The temperature inside exceeded 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to instantly vaporize human flesh. Herculaneum had no time to react. The town was overwhelmed in seconds. Buildings, streets, and people were buried beneath waves of scorching material. Over the following hours, additional surges struck, stacking layer upon layer of debris. By dawn, cooler flows reached Pompeii, but Herculaneum was already gone, sealed beneath 70 to 80 feet of volcanic deposits, deep enough in places to bury a 4-story building. For centuries, it was believed that most of Herculaneum's residents had escaped before the worst arrived. Only a small number of skeletons were known, leading scholars to assume the town had largely emptied in time. That belief collapsed about 20 years ago, when archaeologists excavated the ancient shoreline and uncovered a devastating discovery.
Excavation forces have been removing the lava intermittently for the last 200 years.
Inside a series of stone boat sheds, dozens of bodies were found packed together, frozen in their final moments. These people had fled toward the sea, hoping for rescue, only to be overtaken at the very edge of escape. Bioanthropologist Dr. Pier Paolo Petroni studied the remains and identified unmistakable signs of extreme heat at the moment of death. Muscles had contracted instantly, forcing hands and feet into clenched positions.
Preserving Herculaneum like a fossil in amber. Everything frozen in time.
A reaction caused by sudden exposure to intense heat. The victims were struck almost immediately by the superheated surge. With temperatures reaching roughly 400 to 500 degrees Celsius, the flow engulfed the shelters in seconds. Death came instantly, leaving no opportunity to flee or even react. Despite the violence of the event, the remains were preserved with remarkable clarity. The ash that buried the victims hardened into a protective seal, preserving bones and positions for nearly 2,000 years. Among the most affecting discoveries was a woman found curled protectively around an unborn child, revealing she was 7 months pregnant when the eruption struck. So far, archaeologists have uncovered roughly 300 skeletons, with many more believed to remain buried. While most tell a collective story of sudden death and failed escape, one set of remains would later stand apart, challenging assumptions and reshaping what researchers thought they knew about Herculaneum's final moments. Hero of Herculaneum. For historian Adrian Murdoch, one figure among the Herculaneum victims offers a rare window into the town's final moments. Found lying face down on the beach, this man is known as Specimen E26. He was an adult male whose skeleton was almost entirely preserved, along with patches of blackened, mummified skin. Even on his scalp, researchers could see traces of preserved tissue, a stark reminder of the extraordinary heat that struck him at the moment of death.
Heat would have caused his skin to dissolve. Underneath his skin, the muscles.
Modern forensic pathologist Dr. Richard Shepard, an expert in disaster forensics, studied the body and noted that the man's position tells a story of struggle. His face-down posture was not a simple collapse. His left hand was clawed into the ground, as if reaching toward safety in his final moments.
But if we look at the left hand, you can see that it's not just lying flat on the ground, it's digging in.
The skeleton captures an instant frozen in time, showing both the force of the pyroclastic surge and a desperate attempt to survive. Investigators also examined the objects found with him: a sword and dagger, a silver belt, and a leather pouch filled with gold and silver coins suggest he was far from an ordinary civilian. The sword identifies him as a soldier, likely still in active service when Vesuvius erupted. His vertebrae show early signs of arthritis, placing him in his late 30s or early 40s. His front teeth were missing.
About the body when they found it was that our man had his front teeth missing.
And the coins he carried were worth roughly 2 years of a Roman soldier's pay. Pier Paolo Petroni, who studied many of the Herculaneum victims, notes that this soldier's decision to remain apart from the others remains unexplained. His position on the open beach, away from the boat vaults where others sought shelter, is unusual. Whether he had a military duty to fulfill, was guarding something, or had another reason for staying outside cannot be determined from the physical evidence. When the pyroclastic surge struck, the extreme heat acted instantly, charring skin and causing muscles to contract with violent force. 2,000 years later, archaeologists found him still wearing his military gear, his coins untouched, alone on the shoreline where he fell. Whether the money belonged to him or was collected from others will likely never be known. His death raises another mystery. What happened after the eruption? How did the Roman world respond to this catastrophe? The answer is stranger than you might expect. They tried to forget it existed. The mysterious disappearance of Herculaneum. While the fate of Pompeii spread across the world, Herculaneum quietly faded from memory. There was a deliberate reluctance to speak about the city, and by the Middle Ages, it had taken on an almost mythical status. By the 18th century, Herculaneum was spoken of as a lost city, compared to legends like Atlantis. Over time, people built their towns directly on the layers of earth that buried the city and its people, unaware of what lay beneath their feet. This silence was finally broken in the early 17th century, when a farmer accidentally broke into the buried town while digging a well. News of the discovery quickly reached the Bourbon rulers of southern Italy. The King of Naples ordered teams of workers to tunnel through hardened volcanic rock, searching for valuable objects to decorate his palace. The work was extremely hazardous. Workers faced collapsing tunnels, toxic gases, and dangerous conditions in the cramped underground passages. The Bourbon court prioritized finding treasures over workers' safety, making these early excavations both primitive and perilous. The Bourbon diggers cut through walls and ceilings with little understanding of what lay ahead, often finding nothing but more solid rock. Worn down by fear and exhaustion, they frequently abandoned tunnels, convinced they had reached the edge of the buried city. Major excavations resumed in 1738 under the patronage of Charles III of Spain, who had recently begun building a royal palace nearby in Portici. He placed the project under the supervision of the military engineer Giovanni Antonio Medrano and the Spanish officer Roque Joaquín de Alcubierre, marking the first large-scale and organized effort to uncover Herculaneum. Their work led to the publication of Le Antiquità di Herculano, a series that spread images of the buried city across Europe. These publications had a powerful effect on European taste and helped fuel the rise of neoclassicism. By the late 18th century, designs inspired by Herculaneum appeared on fashionable objects such as wall paintings, tripod tables, perfume burners, and even teacups. Roman styles, long buried underground, were now shaping homes and palaces far beyond Italy. Despite this cultural impact, excavation halted again in 1762. The scholar Johann Joachim Winckelmann condemned the work as careless treasure hunting rather than careful study. At the same time, attention shifted to nearby Pompeii, which was far easier to excavate, lying beneath only about 4 meters of volcanic material compared to roughly 20 meters at Herculaneum. Interest in Herculaneum revived in the 19th century. Between 1828 and 1837, King Francis I ordered new land purchases and encouraged fresh excavation efforts. After the formation of the Kingdom of Italy in 1861, these acquisitions continued, allowing archaeologists to expand the site eastward. By 1875, excavation had progressed significantly, slowly restoring Herculaneum to history after centuries of neglect. Despite decades of tunneling and digging, only a small portion of the ancient town has been uncovered. Andrew Wallace Hadrill and the modern excavation team believe that large public buildings still lie hidden underground, possibly including libraries or additional bath complexes that early treasure hunters never reached. These buried spaces may hold vital clues about daily life in the ancient city. In one newly exposed tunnel, Andrew can clearly see the combined damage caused by the eruption and early excavations. A row of columns that once stood upright now lies shattered, their tops separated from their bases by the force of Vesuvius. These columns belong to a basilica, a major Roman public building where officials met and legal disputes were settled. Using detailed maps created during the Bourbon period, experts can reconstruct the basilica's original layout and imagine its former scale. Although much of the artwork was removed long ago, fragments of frescoes and scattered artifacts remain. Early excavators cut out anything they considered valuable, leaving the rest behind. The Bourbon excavations brought remarkable Roman art to light. but they ignored the broader story of the city and its people. By modern standards, their work resembles looting more than archaeology, driven by wealth and prestige rather than understanding. Even so, they did not take everything. Beyond the human remains, what else has been preserved inside this forgotten city?
The analysis of DNA of these people, we know that most of women, they are just low.
Shocking finds in the once prosperous city. Archaeologists working in Herculaneum continue to uncover striking discoveries, including a rare painted statue head found near the basilica. Dr. Monica Castaldi is responsible for protecting and studying this fragile piece, which offers an unusual glimpse into ancient Roman art. When she received news of the find, she immediately instructed her team to keep the head moist by sealing it in a plastic bag, knowing the thin paint layer could be lost if it dried too quickly. Because of her quick response, the painted surface survived, revealing fine details that are rarely preserved. The color around the eyes is especially clear, giving the face a lifelike presence seldom seen in ancient sculpture. Experts believe the head represents an Amazon warrior woman, a familiar figure in Roman mythology, and it likely once stood among many statues inside the basilica. Herculaneum stands apart from Pompeii because of how well organic materials were preserved. Wooden structures, food, fabric, and even the upper floors of buildings survived, offering a fuller picture of daily Roman life. What truly sets the site apart is the survival of everyday household objects that feel close and familiar. Wood preservation is especially rare since it usually survives only when burned, waterlogged, or completely dried out. In Herculaneum, intense pyroclastic surges carbonize the wood, locking its shape in place and preserving staircases, ceilings, shelves, and furniture with remarkable clarity. Some of the most delicate discoveries remain out of public view. In one room, archaeologists found carbonized furniture, including a bed with an elegant wooden frame.
You immediately see the carbonized wooden partition that gives the building its name.
The heat turned the wood to carbon, yet every carved detail remained visible. In rarer cases, non-carbonized wood has also survived, such as a cupboard door that remained intact, likely because it was exposed to a less intense burst of heat. Wood was not the only organic material to endure. Archaeologists uncovered a wicker basket possibly used for fishing, along with a Roman loaf of bread that had been sliced and stamped. The loaf still carried the letters A, V, and M, showing how bakers marked bread so customers received the correct order. The exact meaning of these stamps is debated among scholars. They may have indicated the baker's name, the owner of the flour, or served as a form of quality control. Beneath the houses ran an ancient sewer system that also served as a dumping ground for waste. Professor Mark Robinson studied this material and found broken pottery and food remains that reveal how the people of Herculaneum cooked and ate. Kitchens were often placed beside toilets, making it easy to dispose of scraps through the same shaft. Among the sewer waste were traces of the city's final meals, including mineralized cherry stones, apple seeds, grape seeds, and peach pits. Water flowing through this system came from a highly advanced Roman aqueduct network. At the time of the eruption, the Aqua Augusta supplied water to towns across the region surrounding Vesuvius. Although aqueducts are often imagined as towering arches, most of the system ran underground, using arches only where valleys had to be crossed. The sophistication of this water network, combined with the extraordinary preservation of everyday objects, continues to reshape what archaeologists understand about Herculaneum. Just how advanced was this ancient city?
Altogether, the victims found within the boat chambers and on the beach are around 10 times more victims than in the town.
Advanced ancient civilization. In Herculaneum, water was carefully managed and shared throughout the town using a highly organized system. Water was first cleaned and divided at treatment plants on the edges of the city, then sent along 3 separate channels, one to the public baths, another to the private homes of wealthy families, and a third to fountains where everyone could draw fresh water. At the heart of this system stood a dividing tower, built at the town's highest point. The tower regulated water pressure, and when pressure grew too high, excess water was pushed through pipes to smaller towers at street corners, where additional tanks stored it.
You've got lead pipes running up, and that gives the pressure so that the water can go into individual houses.
From there, lead pipes carried water to public fountains, ensuring a steady, reliable flow. This approach, known as the constant offtake system, meant that water never stopped running. Public taps always delivered fresh water, offering a convenience and reliability that made life in the town remarkably comfortable. This steady supply was one of the many ways the Romans transformed daily life, combining engineering skill with thoughtful urban planning to improve cities across the region. By the time of the eruption, Herculaneum was a prosperous and peaceful town. Its houses overlooked the Bay of Naples, and residents enjoyed a life of comfort and abundance. The reliable water system improved their quality of life, providing a level of convenience unmatched in Europe until the 19th century, long after the fall of the Roman Empire. Yet all of this vanished in a matter of hours. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more unbelievable stories.